cut. Welcome to the top cut. Welcome to the top cut. Welcome to the top cut. Top cut. Welcome to the top cut. Welcome to the top cut. Welcome to the top cut.
Today's episode is brought to you by Gem Accessories. Gem Accessories is one of the leading accessory manufacturers within the trading card game space. Known for their deck boxes, Gem also has an amazing lineup of binders, backpacks, and more. Some of our personal favorites include the new KLRZ Icons deck boxes, the Secrets binder, and the Jaguar and Puma backpacks. But don't just take it from us, check out some of these reviews on screen. For all these amazing products and more, be sure to check out Gem Accessories using the link in the description down below or on Twitter at XGemAccessories. Again, the description down below or on Twitter at XGemAccessories. Hello, everybody, and welcome into today's episode of the Top Cut Yu-Gi-Oh! Podcast. My name is Sunny. I'm here with my co-host, Caleb.
Hello.
And of course, before we get too far, we want to thank all of our wonderful sponsors. So, of course, a huge thank you to Gem Accessories. Also want to thank Steelfox Games as well as ETB Games. And of course, if you're going to go ahead and buy anything from Dragon Shield, we would always love if you checked out our affiliate link in the description down below before you shop. Just click it before you shop. Costs you nothing extra. And of course, we want to thank all of our wonderful, wonderful patrons. So, with that said, the only other thing I want to say before we get started, because I know everyone is itching to hear the ban list discussion, I want to give a big bump to our Discord server and our YouTube channels. We are on our way to hitting some really cool milestones in both of those. And there was also one other thing that I wanted to check before we get too far in, because if I'm not mistaken, how did I end up on a giant 404 page, huh?
I don't know.
That's interesting. Here we go.
There you go.
Well, Caleb, I found out what I needed.
Okay.
Do you know what today is? Or what this episode represents?
No.
This episode is episode 199.
Oh, so our next one will be episode 200.
So, we want everybody to come out and bring all of their friends and tell everybody. Next episode is episode 200. Woo! Woo! So, for episode 200, we are not doing anything special because we're too tired to do anything special.
Yeah, we just don't have the time at the moment.
Yeah. But a huge kudos to all of you, the listeners, for sticking it out with us for this long. I don't know. I'll say more about it next episode. But it's a pretty exciting milestone for us. And we are very happy to be here.
Yep.
So, with that said, please, if you haven't already, check out our Discord and our YouTube. Also, we have a pretty cool giveaway coming soon on our Twitter. So, with that said, let's go ahead and get on into today's topic. So, we are officially in Yu-Gi-Oh! Ban list season. I know that we are heavily into the ban list season when I see the Is the Yu-Gi-Oh! Ban list Twitter page up and running.
Yeah.
Which, for those of you that don't know, there is a Twitter page that says, it's literally just, is the ban list up? And the picture for it is just a clock that just says, no, 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 no.
Yep.
And it's funny because it's just, is the ban list up is the name of the account. And just like every day, they'll just tweet, no.
Yep.
No. And then they'll just, on the day of the ban list, they'll be like, yes, it's up. Go, go, go.
Go look at it.
It's one of my favorite Twitter accounts that exists for Yu-Gi-Oh! But yeah, we are heavily deep into ban list season, and there is a ton of speculation going around. Is this going to get banned? Is that going to get banned? What's going to go on? Well, we're going to go over that today. And I feel like we should talk about why there is the belief that we'll get a ban list here very soon. So generally, ban list season, usually there's a Yu-Gi-Oh! Ban list every 3-ish months.
2 to 3 months. Sometimes, usually, 3 to 4.
Right. Now, what we can usually go by as far as our predictions and our way that we go about it is how many episodes we get in a season, because
Yeah.
we reset the season every time there's a new ban list.
Yeah, every single time the ban list goes live, as in it is applied and we are on that ban list now.
Right. So whenever a new ban list goes into effect, we kind of gauge that as, okay, well, now there's a new ban list in effect, so that's the new season.
Mhm.
So with that said, our very first season, we only had 15 episodes, which we came in kind of near the middle of the format.
Yeah.
Season 2 is 27 episodes. Season 3 was 36. Season 4, which was our most ever.
Yeah.
Season 4 was 29. Season 5 was 33. And then the 33 episode season represents that big giant gap we had last year.
Yeah.
Where everybody felt like the ban list was like a month and a half late.
Mm-hmm.
But
so was that 36 one, huh?
yeah, I mean, anytime the ban list goes more than like 2.5 months, people are like, "Where's it at? Where's the ban list?"
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's also because we expect it to be out, and then there'll be like a couple of weeks before it gets applied.
right,
So people have the opportunity to order cards, change their deck as they need to, blah 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 blah. But that never
Right.
happens.
yeah, generally a ban list, and this is not always true. Some ban lists will they'll announce it on like a Wednesday, and then the following Monday it'll take effect.
Yeah.
That's usually about the quickest turnaround we have. And then every now and then they'll do one where they like announce it one like Wednesday or Thursday, and it doesn't take effect for like not the next Monday but the following.
Yeah. What I dislike is whenever they announce it on like a Monday or like between Monday and Wednesday,
Yeah.
and then there's a YCS that weekend that it's going to be applied for.
That's really, really rare these days.
Incredibly rare, but boy does it get me when they do that.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen that since I got back into the game, except for like
Bless you. Bless you, jeez.
my allergies have been just destroying me.
I feel that.
So
I think it's happened like once since we got back in the game, and even then it was like,
I don't even know. I think the only time it's come close was that it wasn't any YCSs, but it was in national season.
Yeah.
And there was like 3 nationals the following weekend.
yeah, and it did not give people enough time to get cards and change up their decks to apply to this ban list. It was
Right.
no bueno, and it gave a lot of advantages to people who had access to large card shops that way could just show up, or like they could just call ahead and be like, "Hey, I need this, 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 and this," and just show up and pay for it.
Yeah.
Gave those people a big advantage.
Which I think is why they try not to do it more than like 2 weeks before a major event.
Mhm.
But every now and then it happens. The format dictates it. They have
Yeah.
a bunch of events planned. But
There just like wasn't a good time to do it.
right. So that season was 33 episodes. The following season, which is POT format, we got a ban list that was effective October 1st. This was last October. And then we had another ban list that was effective December 1st.
Yeah, which is bizarre.
Yeah, it was only 14 episodes that we had that season, and that's a really fast turnaround.
Oh yeah, no. Like I remember when that happened, a lot of people were saying that was an emergency ban list, not a regular one. But then Konami made a big deal about no. This is just a normal ban list, not an emergency ban list.
Yeah, well, they didn't ever say. Normally, if it's like an emergency ban list,
They'll say,
right? Oh,
but it was so quick and
that moment when you like kind of have to sneeze, but it's not
yeah, and
coming
it
out.
stuck.
Oh, it's brutal. Yeah, so they didn't say anything about it actually being an emergency ban list, which normally they say this like an adjusted list or whatever.
Yeah,
And they just never did that, which was weird. But then for February, we got another list effective from February 13th. So we went 2 months and then 2.5 months. And honestly, I think that everybody got a little bit spoiled by the like quickness of the ban lists. And as of this episode, we have 20 episodes in this season.
Yeah, it's getting to be about that time where it could be dropped. I would say within the next week or two,
Yeah.
most likely. If not, within the next month.
Personally, so I think the thought process for me is that I don't think that the format is actually in a terrible place right now. I know that other people would disagree, but I think there's only one fundamentally unfair thing that's happening right now.
I mean, I imagine people disagree with what you're saying is the one unfair thing, but
I would say that the one fundamentally unfair thing that's happening like a lot right now is the Kashtira Lock 9 combo or Lock 5 or whatever they want to do. Because they can Lock 9, but
yeah.
Lock 5 is like kind of where it starts and then it evolves into 9.
Well, and even honestly, if that was just all the deck did was just that and nothing else, it'd be like, yeah, cool, I can just slide in a bunch of cards to help me help me with that, right?
Right.
But that's the thing, the deck doesn't have to do that. They can also just Arise Heart Pass or lock like a couple of your zones and lock a bunch more during your turn without overextending to just get sphere moded. Right. And then, like I said, Arise Heart Pass to get around the lava golems and stuff like that, but then leave them open to because then it becomes a
game of cat and mouse, right? So
yeah,
like the deck dies really hard to Nibiru, so instead of playing into that harder, they will just make Arise Heart and pass. I mean, even if you just look at but then when everybody's making Arise Heart pass is when the deck can go for a more established board state. Like if you look at the winning list from YCS LA for the 250th, Paulie Aronson, he said in his deck profile that he went for the Lock 3 every game. He went Arise Heart Pass one time and got blown out because he made the call that nobody was going to play Nibiru because it was just way too uncertain.
Again, because they could just Arise Heart Pass.
Right. And so because he made that call, and a lot of people didn't play Nibiru. I know I didn't play Nibiru at the event. I ran into people that were. I got nibbed several times. But because he didn't run into that many people playing Nibiru, him not needing to go Arise Heart Pass and going a little bit further, he was really rewarded for that. Mm-hmm. And I think that was a good meta call on his part.
Yeah. But then that whole situation creates this instance where, well, last event, people were maining a lot of nib, so all the cash players just Arise Heart passing. So now this event, no one's going to have nib because last event, so now we can go in for I can now attempt for the full lock 5.
But then if you're being big brain and you say, oh, well, they're doing that now because nobody was playing nib, now I play nib. And it's like, it's this weird game of cat and mouse.
Yeah. It becomes a very circular arms race, and it's no fun.
So I would say that's like the most fundamentally unfair thing that's happening in Yu-Gi-Oh right now. And I think that one card being banned fixes it. So for me, I don't really necessarily... I mean, there's a lot of cards that I could point to and say, this card needs to be banned. This card is a problem. I don't like this card in the format, but I don't see it realistically happening.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have a list of what you want? Do you have any kind of a wish list or a predictions list?
Well, I mean, as far as being banned, the only thing where I'm like, this has to go is exactly Diablosis, the Mind Hacker. And that's because that's what enables them to do the Lock 5. It eliminates their mega board where they can very possibly lock out your entire field between their turn and your turn.
Yeah.
And then it also takes away a tool from them. So then that whole arms race of do I full lock or do I just Rise Heart Pass, it takes away one of their options, so now it's a 50-50 shot.
Yeah, and I think that having Diablosis banned makes the deck a very manageable and fair deck. Mm-hmm. I think having Diablosis, though, makes the deck stupid.
Oh, yeah, no. It was just a flaw in design, because Diablosis is almost like custom made for the deck.
It does seem to be that way almost,
even though Diablosis was made years ago.
There's one reason that I don't know that Konami bans Diablosis, and I respect the reason.
Why is that?
Do you know where Diablosis' first printing was?
Yeah, it was a world championship card, wasn't it?
No, not World Championship. It was a
Yeah.
YCS card.
Yeah, but it was a championship card.
Yeah, it was a YCS prize card. And it didn't see play for a long time. It got reprinted in Battles of Legends.
One of them. Oop.
Oh, it's going to bother me now. Which one
But-
was it?
To be fair, he's a rank 7 because before Kashtira, rank 7 wasn't like unhittable. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
But it was a toolbox full of very powerful cards that just didn't have any engine underneath it.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Right.
Like there was no decks that was just spamming out level 7s, and the only deck that I can think of off the top of my head that could feasibly do that are Dragon Rulers, and they're all,
Yeah.
well, all but one of them.
There's decks that could make the 7s, but it wasn't nearly as much of the established toolbox that other packages were. Like 4 has long been, basically when Xyz first came out, 3 was the toolbox package.
Oh yeah.
And then over time it became 4, and you even saw some love go towards 6s. And really, I would say the 3 big ones were 3, 4, and 8 were kind of the big toolbox Xyz packages.
yeah,
But
Xyz spam.
yeah. And the only other one that you could say is as Sprite came into being, 2 became a lot more relevant.
Oh yeah, definitely. But before Sprite 2 was just kind of a thing that existed.
Right.
It's just kind of whatever.
The only other time that you saw 2s really being a thing was Paleozoic.
Yeah, and then before that was also used heavily by the.
Agents, like a
Yeah.
long time ago. But
Oh yeah, because then they would just normal summon Venus, make Gacha Gacha Kentetsu.
yeah, with the shine balls.
Yeah, and who was a really good card back then.
Yeah. When the card first released, it was really powerful, actually.
Yeah, which is weird to say, and like it was a good card for a long time.
At least 6 months. Yeah.
Yeah, for a card like Gacha Gacha Kentetsu, that was a long time.
Yeah. But I would say, to me, Diablosis is the most urgent card, but I don't know that Konami wants to ban something that was a YCS prize card,
That's fair.
just because it's like they don't really like having prize cards on the ban list. I mean, Cyberstein was on the ban list for a long time, and it eventually worked its way off the list. It's been at 1 since 2019.
Yeah. To be fair, I feel like Konami would probably consider a prize card going on the ban list a failure on their own part, because then that creates a situation to where in some people could rightfully think they developed a card that the only way to get the card was to win tournaments, but the only people winning tournaments was the people who won the tournaments and got the card.
Yeah, I don't think that Konami designs prize cards with the intention of them being meta relevant.
Yeah,
Staples.
like must have. You have to run this. If you're not running it, you're gonna lose.
And I think a lot of that is because of once Cyberstein became publicly available, like to the masses, it really became a powerful card
Oh,
that
yeah.
warranted the very first emergency ban. Once you had things like after Cyberstein was Deathfall's Golf was like, yeah.
Yeah.
But after that was Shrink, which became a meta relevant card.
Mm-hmm.
It was heavily played in Gadgets and Gladiator Beasts.
Oh yeah. But I mean, just about every deck can run it.
Yeah, and then, which it's extremely power crept now, and it's no longer,
Oh yeah. It's
I don't
far
know,
from
I don't know
it.
that it ever served on the ban list, but the 2 cards that followed it were some of the most powerful cards ever.
Mm-hmm.
Crush Card Virus,
Oh yeah.
which was banned until 2015, where it had to get errated, and post errata, it was still a good and usable card.
Mm-hmm.
And
I've even considered it in Labyrinth.
right, and then you have Gold Sarcophagus,
Mm-hmm.
which was at 1 for the longest time. And then after Gold Sarcophagus went to 3, it was at 3 for a while, but then it worked its way back to 1 with Dragon Ruler, worked its way back to 3, and then went back to 1 for Thunder Dragon.
Yep.
So that's a card that's been all over the ban list.
To be fair, those 2 archetypes in particular especially Thunder Dragon, could royally abuse
Yeah.
Gold Sarcophagus, particularly because the Thunder Dragons would get effects when they're banished.
Yeah.
So you could just Gold Sarc banish effect.
Just like the Dragon Rulers would, but it was even better.
Yeah. Just kind of like how people who so it's kind of like foolish burialing dandelion. Same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Boom, effect, cool. Let's go.
Right. So I don't know that they're going to want to ban a prize card. I see a realistic world where they don't have much of a choice because of the prevalence and the power of it. But I think there's a world where they maybe do something like unicorn to 1 and hope that that solves the issue.
The thing is, if you're talking about just not banning anything, limiting 1 cash card probably isn't going to do enough.
Probably not. It hurts the consistency and some of the power ceiling.
You'd probably have to do 2.
I think if you do 2, you have to do unicorn, and I see a world where they ban Kashtira Birth.
Oh, definitely not this ban list, but I can entirely see it.
Oh, I mean, if they don't want to hit Diablosis, then I see a world where they hit Kashtira Birth this ban list. Being able to, grab from the extra deck. I mean, not the extra deck, from the graveyard or banish pile.
Yeah, and just recycle over and over and over. And like,
and it lets you normal summon without tributing.
And like, and even then, like, you can't limit the card because a lot of Kashtira players are already playing this card at 1. Most are playing it at 2.
Yeah.
In case that first one gets like cycloned or something.
You're talking about
Birth.
I think Birth is a 3 of.
No, like all the cash decks I've seen are running 1 or 2, mostly 2.
I don't see a world where they ever run 1 because I think the thing with Birth is that they want to hard draw it.
Yeah. But because they would much rather they want to hard draw it or Kashtira Theosis. They want to hard draw one of those so they can search the other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay, so I'm curious. It's not that I doubt you. I'm just wondering what Paulie was running in his list.
Yeah. It's definitely something to fact check.
Yeah. Well, really, I'm just wondering if I was just mistaken.
Very possibly. Wouldn't be the first time that one of us was mistaken about something.
Yeah. He's running 3 Birth.
Okay, yeah.
3 Birth, 3 Theosis, 3 Planet. Yeah.
Yeah, but like.
But they can run 3, and like I think that the hit to this particular card, it's one of the strongest engine cards.
Oh yeah, but like the thing is that even at 1, it does what it needs to do, and usually they'll only see 1, and they only need to see 1.
Right, and it's searchable off of Unicorn. So if you hit Unicorn and maybe also limit Birth, it really hits the consistency of the deck. But I feel like Konami hasn't gone after individual decks' consistency so much as they have their power ceiling, because to me, when you hit a deck, you shouldn't go after its consistency. You should go after the power ceiling. So
the biggest issue with this deck with Cash's power ceiling is, from my experience with watching people play the deck, playing against it myself, it's a lot of just one-ofs, so you can't just limiting anything doesn't really change a whole lot with the deck with its initial push.
Well, they play 2 Diablosis, they play 2 Shangri-Ira, they play 2 Arise Heart,
and a lot of that
they play 3 Unicorn, 3 Theosis, 3 Field Spell, 3 Birth,
and a lot of the multiple copies of the extra deck probably has a lot to do with the mirror, where you can just look in your opponent's extra deck and just rip a card out of it, just banish it.
Yeah, sure. There is absolutely a certain amount of that being in play.
Yeah. But even then, the extra copies are just kind of fallbacks or plan Bs in case, oh, my board got broken. Oh, well.
Yeah, I think, though, that I would probably play 2 Arise Heart even if Unicorn didn't have the ability to look through your extra deck and banish. Yeah. And if Diablosis didn't, I would probably play 2 Arise Heart. But regardless, I think the way to hit the deck is by banning Diablosis altogether. And I don't think you have to hit anything else. But if you don't hit Diablosis, you have to hit multiple cards. You have to hit either Theosis Birth or Birth Unicorn or Theosis Unicorn.
And maybe even Fenrir somewhere in there. Not necessarily to 1, maybe to 2, maybe, and that's in addition to limiting something else, you know what I mean?
I think the issue with Fenrir is that they want Fenrir to be a playable card outside of Kashtira.
Yeah, as
a generic staple.
Yeah, as kind of a pseudo alternative Pankratops.
Yeah,
that replaces itself.
Yeah, it does search itself, which is crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. People make the argument a lot that Fenrir is better than Pankratops, and I see the use case, right? I see the reason why people say that.
I mean, the only thing from that I can think of where Pankratops is better is that he's bigger.
Pankratops is a quick effect,
That is also true.
and he sends himself to graveyard for cost. So
Yeah.
I think
that's
that
fair.
needing to respond to something your opponent does makes Fenrir not quite as good as like a board breaker.
Yeah, but at the same time, Fenrir can just
Be played going first.
Yeah, and then search another copy of himself to then attempt to break the board.
Right.
As opposed to Pankratops, where if you drop him, he's there.
Yeah.
He's gonna do what he's gonna do.
Right.
And then another issue is that then like even if you drop that second Fenrir and it's still not enough, you have a third.
Yeah.
That you just searched off the second Fenrir.
I do think Fenrir is an eminently powerful card, but I don't see it getting hit on this particular ban list.
No, not at all.
So I will say, I think if they're going to do it, I think Diablosis is the play, but
If they decide not to do that, their only other option is, like you said,
multiple cards.
limiting 2 or more cards.
Yeah. The issue is that it just kills the deck.
It could if you're not careful.
Yeah. So what other decks do we think need to be hit within the meta?
Let's see. The only other deck that immediately comes to mind is maybe Nat Runic. Kind of maybe.
I think there's hits to be said for both the Sprite engine as well as the Runic engine.
Yeah. So that's a better specification. Cuz I mean with Runic all you really got to do is maybe limit their maybe like simulator limit tip, limit fountain. You're good.
If you do both, the deck's dead.
Yeah, no, don't do both. Do one or the other.
Yeah, I think if you do that, I think Fountain is probably the play.
Yeah.
As much as I hate to say it, I think Fountain is a very limitable card.
Oh yeah, and like the deck even has in archetype ways that they're already running to recycle it.
Yeah, I
Should
mean,
something unless it gets banished.
yeah, you just play Jerry and it's fine. But
Which they're already most of them are already playing Gary anyway because he's level 4.
yeah, right. So I think at that point you maybe have to play 2 Gary and maybe replace, because most non, like, you have stun lists and you have not stun lists.
Yeah.
I think most of the not stun lists are just playing 2 Fountain.
Yeah.
So like the Naturia version, 2 Fountain. The Sprite version, 2 Fountain. The Live Twin Sprite version, 2. So I think if you're only playing 2 Fountains in all of the other versions, I think your best case scenario is if they just want to hit the stun version of the deck to try to avoid deck outs, then you can semi-limit it, but I don't think that's what they care about. I think they care about the 1. But if you play the 1, man, playing oh gosh, what's it called? Getting Cosmic is just the worst.
Oh yeah. Oh no. It ends it shuts off the entire engine at that point.
Yeah.
Which is why I'd probably personally lean more toward like maybe a tip limit or semi limit as opposed to really touching the field spells, because then you get basically the same thing.
Yeah.
It gives them far fewer ways to search into the field spell. It gives them far fewer ways to search for anything.
Yeah. I don't know though that I think semi-limiting the field spell hits the consistency of the deck enough to make it relevant.
Yeah, and it also but it really only hits the stun variant, which is awful.
Yeah. Or no, I said limiting, not semi-limiting.
Oh yeah. Limit. Yeah.
I think limiting it, or if I said semi, I meant to say limit.
Yeah, that's cool.
I think that limiting it is enough to really impact the deck in a meaningful way.
Yeah, and then as far as Sprite, I mean, at this point, I think the only way to really hit the deck any harder is like limit blue or jet.
I think you just limit blue and be done with it, honestly.
Yeah, call it a day. And then I think that then at that point, I think the entire engine is like fine. You know what I mean?
To me, I think that limiting blue is the most effective way to hit the deck because it's, again, your Sprite's a little bit harder because I know I said earlier that you want to hit consistency and not, I mean, you want to hit power level and not consistency. But the issue is Sprite's power level is so focused around not just, part of Sprite's power is the consistency, and to effectively hit the ceiling of Sprite, you have to hit all of these other supplementary engines.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, you're talking about hitting Nimble Angler, Nimble Beaver, Live Twin, just anything level 2 at that point.
Right. I mean, short of banning Gigantic, it's just not really a great thing to do.
Yeah.
I think limiting blue really, really hurts the deck a lot more than most people might realize.
And then, like, even if you just start banning everything that Giant could, like, that Sprite Giant could possibly go and, you know, mess with, you then end up in a Halka-Fibrax situation.
Yeah, for sure.
Where they just start banning random tuners, or in this case, random level 2s, because it just happens to work with, you know, this.
Right. I just don't know. I don't know. I want to say that limiting blue does the job.
Yeah, no. I like I said, you either got to limit blue or jet. Blue is the better hit because that's the monster searcher, which searches out Carrot, which is a spell trap negate. It searches out the other one, which is the monster negate.
Yeah.
So it's like blue searches for everything. Jet only searches for spells. So spell traps.
Well, blue searches for monsters.
Yeah, that's what I was saying though. Blue can search everything. Because blue can search jet to search spells.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, true. Yeah. Or if you're just better at the game, you just hard open the other monsters, so you don't need to.
Yeah. You just open all 4 names and then just go normal, special, and now you have carrot and red, and then you just go blue, jet, effective jet search.
Honestly.
And then just combo off with the other two just sitting there like lemons.
Yeah. I think there's a world where you can argue for a ban of Gigantic or Sprint, but at that point you cripple the deck into obscurity.
Well, I mean, without both of those cards, I don't think Sprite exists anymore. I just don't think it's a deck.
They could get by without Sprint. It would suck, but they could do it. They cannot get by without Gigant. I have a hard time believing that Sprite is a deck without Gigant, simply for the fact of Gigant is such a superior extender. It is, without a doubt, one of the best extenders that I've ever seen in Yu-Gi-Oh!
Oh yeah, just search out literally anything that functionally is an archetype that isn't even part of the archetype.
Yeah. So,
with no limitations. And then it locks your opponent.
Yeah.
Who thought of that? That's awful.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's pretty rough.
Oh, also, it doesn't have to detach from itself.
Yeah, also crazy. So, now, like I said, I think personally my dream ban list as far as new cards would be Diablosis banned, and blue limited, and you could make an argument for jet.
Yeah,
just because the deck already has so many other extenders and so many other ways to keep playing, that really the only way you're gonna stop Sprite is by having a Dark Ruler. Dark Ruler No More is like the only answer to Sprite, in my opinion.
Kaijus.
A Kaiju doesn't do it. It has to be a sphere mode. They put up too many cards. Their end board frequently has 6 cards on it. 6 monsters.
That's entirely fair. Well, it depends on when they have to use Gigant's effect. If they have to use it super early because of just the way their hand worked out, then normally they'll go for like an IP, because then they're locked into 2s. They
right.
Can't.
I mean, they usually end on IP anyway.
Yeah. But then they're just but then they're locked into the 2, so they can't make anything bigger than that. So they're like, well, I'm just gonna make IP and a couple of things for me to link off, plus like carrot and red, plus this. And I'm like a solid Kaiju that's the issue, though, is that then you also have to kind of guess what's in their hand. Blah,
And you
blah,
have to deal
blah.
with Red and Carrot. You also have to deal with Melfi of the Forest, Melfi Mommy, whichever Melfi it is.
Yeah. So then it comes down to you gotta pick where you're gonna hit them, where where you're gonna kaiju them.
Right.
And yes, it does only eliminate one, but then you get to pick what that one is.
Right.
And then of course lava golem's better, and then sphere mode's even better because then you can hit 2 or even 3 of them and get rid of more than one issue at a time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's better, Joe, that you just run Dark Ruler no more, because at this point it really is a more consistent.
It's just a 1 card. Bloop. Everything's turned off and you can't stop it.
Right.
And then at that point they have to rely on their hand traps.
So, as far as cards moving around the Forbidden and Limited list outside of
New things added to the list.
Right. Outside of that, there's some cards that are on the list that I would like to see come off. We always start with Blaster. I think Blaster could come off and be fine.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I've heard convincing arguments for Block Dragon going to 1.
Oddly, there is a world where I could see that happening.
I don't think they'll do it, but I could see it.
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like, they could. I don't know if they should. They could.
Yeah. I like the idea of Glow Up Bulb going to 1. And it's not just because I have an ulti that I would love to see spike in price.
I mean, honestly, at this point, so like the number 1 plant deck right now doesn't really synchro. It's a link spam deck. So they could utilize Glow Up Bulb ? Just not as good as Glow Up Bulb has been abused in the past, if that makes sense.
Let me make an argument for Glow Up Bulb not being a card that should be off the list. The only argument that I can make, any deck just becomes a Nat Beast deck.
Any already Earth deck.
An Earth Tuner.
Yeah, it requires an Earth non-tuner, doesn't it?
Does it? Am I stupid? Does it require an Earth Tuner and non-tuner?
I think. I could be wrong. I don't fully remember because I've only ever run Beast in all Earth decks.
I mean, as one does. Okay, so it requires an Earth non-tuner also.
Yeah.
But I mean, you could play it in the plant deck just fine. You could play it in.
Well,
We could play it in Naturia.
Yeah.
Nat Runic.
Oh yeah. But then at that point you didn't have to hard draw it, and then to be fair, once you've hard drawn it, you can just pitch it for Hugin, or you can pitch it for a lot of things at that point.
I mean, you could play 1 for 1.
That's fair. Yeah, you could play the 1 copy of 1 for 1, which gives you essentially 2 copies.
Right.
So
I don't know that you would play the 1 for 1 just because if you're playing 1 for 1 to go get a 1 of, and it's the only level 1 that you're playing,
you then come into issues where you have both of them in your hand. It's like,
1's dead now.
Wait a minute. Isn't Mole Cricket a 1?
Well, that's true.
Yeah. So like even then you can 1 for 1 into a Mole Cricket.
That's true. That's actually broken.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no. Because then you could just like activate 1 for 1, pitch the Glow Bulb, summon Mole Cricket, then Glow Bulb, boom. You have both on field. I don't know why you would want both. Oh yeah, because then you just activate Mole Cricket, summon Camellia, 5 into a beast.
Yeah.
And that's assuming nothing else. Vacuum.
Yeah. It's still
So-
cool though.
Yeah. It's still.
I mean,
Cool.
you go 1 for 1, pitch the Glow Up Bulb like you said.
Yeah.
Get
Summon
Mole Cricket.
effective Mole Cricket.
Effective Mole Cricket, summon Camellia, and then use that to search Blessing. That's actually really cool.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I don't think we'll see it, but the OCG did it, so you never know.
Yeah. We'll see.
I would be fine with Harp Horror coming off. I'll be honest.
Coming to 1.
Yeah, to 1. I would be fine with Plush Fire going to 1. And I would be. I'm trying to go just like You know what's crazy is I would be fine with Link Cross going to 1.
Well, I mean, because Halka-Fibrax isn't a thing anymore.
Yeah, Hauki Fibrax and Auroradon are both gone. realistically, I think Link Cross could probably come off and be fine.
Yeah, because those are the because like Link, the only deck I could foresee abusing Link Cross is exactly Math Mech.
Math Mech?
Yeah, because it's a Cyberse.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it requires like a Link 2 or higher monster. I guess you do get Cyberse tokens.
Yeah.
But
Well,
you can't use them as Link material.
Well, I mean, like I said, that's the only deck I could foresee being able to utilize it.
I think Link Cross could come off.
Yeah.
People would say that it's a problem, but I'm not convinced that it would be a problem immediately.
It's not a problem now, but it's one of those cards that will become a problem at some point in the future.
Yeah, that's fair.
So it's like, we can unban it now, and then we'll just have to reban it later, probably. But that later could literally be next format. It could, like, the next format, or it could be years down the line.
Yeah. What do you think about Samorg?
I think Samorg is fine at this point, since the barrier statue is banned.
Is it, or would it give that deck that is already almost back to full power another toolboxy card to go into something like an Apex Avian? Because remember, it can summon Samorg for free by just banishing from the graveyard.
Yes, but my biggest issue with the card, even back when I was playing the deck, was that I could just drop a barrier statue of the Stormwinds for free.
Yeah.
And then my opponent has to use a lot of resources to get rid of the barrier statue. But now it's like, well, yeah, I can pump out a extra negate. So what if it just gets, raw sphere moded, lava golem?
But I feel like that
kaiju?
was the argument before, right? Because people were already playing Dark Ruler for the deck.
Yeah, but then you also still had to contend with the barrier statue, which is a big deal.
Not if you Dark Ruler.
Well, because then you have to Dark Ruler, and then you have to use other resources to then out the board. Otherwise,
I guess.
yeah. But now you don't need it. But like at that point, you had to have exactly Dark Ruler. Without the barrier statue, you don't need only Dark Ruler. Several cards can do it.
Yeah. I will always argue that Zen Meiji can come off the list
If Hunter goes away.
if Hunter goes.
Yeah,
I will
switch the two.
argue
Give him a
that
switch.
I will argue that Drident could go to 1 just fine.
Yeah, I could see it.
Spells? Ugh.
Yeah, no, because then you're talking about some powerful spells.
Do you think that do you think that Delinquent Duo could go to 1?
No. However, if they did it, I find it hilarious.
I think it would be a sometimes played side deck card. It doesn't give you perfect hand knowledge, right? It's not like Confiscation or Forceful Sentry.
That's fair, where you get to look at your opponent's hand. You're just randomly ripping cards out of your opponent's hand.
And
Your opponent gets to pick what the second one is.
And they go to the graveyard.
To be fair,
They don't go back in the deck. They go in the graveyard, which is a resource these days.
to be fair, if you're up against like Nature Runic and you don't know, so you just blindly Delinquent Duo and they have the tree in hand,
Yeah,
it's like
exactly.
it's like thanks. Randomly rip. Oh, you didn't rip it? Well, too bad. I'm discarding it anyway. Get a search. That's entirely fair. I could see Delinquent Duo coming back, and then they just paid 1,000 life points to they ripped 2 cards out of your hand, but then you can plus.
Yeah, or if they hit a Mole Cricket and then you summon something from the extra deck, they just summon Mole Cricket and then use Mole Cricket to get Camellia and off to the races.
Yeah, on turn 0.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Hilariously.
it could be an okay card.
Yeah. It's
Even against something like Math Mech. Okay, well, they can summon a lot of their dudes from the graveyard. Sword Soul. Okay, well, they have all the tennies that do stuff in the graveyard. Like, there's realistically a world where it sees play sometimes as a side deck card.
Yeah, well, it would probably get main for a long while because, new card.
Potentially.
Because that's kind of what happened with Change of Heart was for about a week, maybe 2. It was main decked everywhere because, new card.
Yeah.
And very quickly got put in the side deck, and then for one weekend, the next weekend people weren't even bothering with it anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking it'll probably do the same thing. So maybe we'll see.
Yeah, it won't happen, but
No.
it would be interesting. And Pankratops could go to 3, right?
No, I don't think it can.
I mean, think about the powerful going second cards that we have in Yu-Gi-Oh.
You know what? That's fair. That is
is Pankratops really the issue here?
That's entirely fair. When you have Dark Ruler No More, which just blanks your opponent's entire field. You have Evenly Matched, which just banishes everything.
Mm-hmm.
Emporium, which is just a targeted no. Granted, it's a singular targeted no, but it's a targeted no. But all of those, however, do have trade-offs. Dark Ruler No More, you can't deal battle damage, but your opponent just can't take any damage this turn. Evenly Matched, you have to spend your battle phase to utilize it. Pankratops doesn't have any of those, but it does require that you start your turn with it.
More or less, yeah.
But then because it's also a chainable...
I would argue that something like Kurikara is better because it clears them without starting a chain.
Oh, absolutely, because then you can like force your opponent to activate stuff and then just go...
Yeah.
It's essentially both a better... It is essentially, depending upon the situation, a better or worse kaiju. In the worst case scenarios for the card, it's just a worse kaiju.
I could also see a world where Herald of Orange Light comes off.
Yeah, because Drytron's kind of... Well, actually, no, just the Earth Fairy engine in general's kind of fallen off.
Well,
Because
I mean,
it's been hit.
all of the tier limit cards and all the Ishizu cards are all limited.
Yeah.
And that was where it was seeing play was the Ishizu engine.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think it's fine to come off.
Oh, yeah.
I think Phantom Sky Blaster could come off. You know, I think that there's a lot of cards on this list that would probably be fine at 3.
You know what card I think would be great at 3?
What?
Red Reboot.
Yeah, me too, but that one's not coming off the ban list
No, it's not.
because they just got banned. By the way, Red Reboot would love if that one came back.
Mm-hmm. Even if it's just a 1.
Yeah, I would also love if they banned a few cards. Wish list cards to get banned, things like Dimensional Barrier.
Floodgates. Just anything that's a floodgate.
You know cards I've advocate for banning every season, and they've never been hit.
Yeah.
You know what cards?
Well, I mean, besides, like, the continuous floodgates.
Rivalry, Tikaboo, Gozen specifically.
Yeah. The continuous floodgates.
Because they are unintuitive, and I hate them.
Yeah, they're weird. They can be they can be really wonky and obtuse for a newer player to grasp. Granted, once you've grasped them,
It's a rulings nightmare. Always has been, always will be.
Yeah. Because, like, it's one of those things where once you've grasped the concept, it's like, okay, I kind of get it. But, like, just going into it blind, you have no idea how complicated just that one line of text is.
Yeah. I hate those cards with a fiery, intense passion. And if they did not exist in Yu-Gi-Oh, it would make me very happy.
Yeah. But they do, so we got to deal with it.
Yeah.
Which, you know, it'd be what it be. But, like, the only other cards I could think of as far as moving around the ban list, I could see Gazelle going to more than 1.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the Salamangreat engine would probably be fine at this point.
Like,
it's
even
not
with,
doing anything that MathMech isn't doing, but better.
Yeah, like, and like even with all the new stuff, it's just a fire attribute, slightly worse MathMech at full power.
Yeah, and I know that that's like crazy to say, but I think that a lot of that deck is like, I'm gonna make Heat Soul. You know,
Well, that's the thing because the deck fire locks.
Yeah.
It fire and Cyberburst locks you. So they can't utilize Transcode. They can't utilize Transcode Talker. They can't utilize
Splash Mage.
They can't utilize Update Jammer. They can barely utilize Access Code.
Well, yeah, I mean, and they can definitely utilize Access Code, but
It's rough. They have to they can't do it on turn 0. They can't do it on turn 0. It's really hard for them to do it on the crackback because so many of their cards will lock. Not a whole lot, but like a good chunk of them will lock them into fire, and then they can't make access code.
yeah.
So it's just a differently themed, slightly worse MathMech. And the big reason why it's worth, in my opinion, is because they don't have access to the trap based just plopping Xyz on a board with the negate.
That also rips cards.
that also rips cards, that does like 2 other things that don't really matter at the moment.
Well, they very much matters. The 3 things it does is rip a card from your opponent's
Yeah.
hand, send a monster from their board, and send a spell trap. But it's very strong.
Yeah, which Salamangreat does not have. Yes, their spell traps are really good with Rage and Roar, and they can just keep utilizing them over and over and over.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's just a fair deck.
Yeah.
It's good. It's a cool deck. I love Salamangreat just as a concept, particularly with their reincarnation summon. It's just such a cool concept.
It is a very, very cool concept that I can appreciate, but I think it's been power crept out at this point that Gazelle could come off the list.
Yeah, I could totally see Gazelle coming to 3, and a good friend of ours would love that.
Yeah. Well, I think we're gonna go ahead and call the episode here. Just for a little context, it is Wednesday night. In the last 3 days, I've worked just shy of 40 hours.
Yep.
And I am just exhausted. So I'm
that.
actually, the only reason I made it through this recording without falling asleep mid recording was because I was cranked a Red Bull. But but I do want everybody to know that we do appreciate genuinely all the support. I'd never even considered hundreds of episodes, plural, when we started this.
Yeah.
I just kind of thought it'd be a fun thing we would do for a little while and just stop.
And then get bored.
Yeah. And
But here we are.
we've just been trucking along. This episode will go up on April 28th. And May 16th, May 9th, I think, will be our 2-year anniversary of our first episode going out.
Yep.
So,
Wild.
yeah, wild indeed. So, with all that said, thank you all so much for being here and tuning in. And before we go, we're going to go ahead and give a big shout out to all of our patrons. So,
Heck yeah.
a huge thank you to, give me a second because I don't have it pulled up and I'm stupid for not having it pulled up. And I thought I had it pulled up. A huge thank you to a Thunder Dragon, Colossusi, Cam Yang, Kane Martin, Zyphorus, Cards, Goetia, Earth Machine, Best Deck, Epi, Has Anyone Actually Read Toy Vendor, HGH Cyber, I Am McLincoln, If All You Have Is a Cosmic, Every Problem Looks Like a Floodgate, John Leal, Monstertron, Mountain Man, Oatmeal Spaghetti, Owen Alvarado, Seto Kawaiba, Silver Hope, Unbanned Number 95, Konami, Understanding and Reading are 2 different things, Virtually Saviors, World Rogue, and Tier 2 are the polite terms for bad deck, Aaron Gardner, Asami, Ashless Chaps, Atsuyo, Simp the Silver Castle, Blackwing Silverwing, The Ascendant is the best Floodgate, Boxwine, come on and get your game on. Duty Booty, Dragon Maidenless Behavior, Dragon Maid Stunzeed, I'm about to Rika Glamour Tribute for Cross D's Plant Nuts in Your Mouth, Cam the Hockey Walkie / Mixer, Old Man Red, Pin Code 143, Slay Canning Out, and Valence Hojo Mama. Thank you all so much for your continued support of the podcast. Again, if you want to get that extra episode every week and get early access to the audio versions of all of our episodes, as well as some other cool perks, benefits, and merch things like that, be sure to go ahead and check out our Patreon. And of course, until next time, have a great weekend, everyone.
Take care, everybody.